All right, saddle up, cowpokes. Never Swallow the Worm is the name of this adventure for Weird Frontiers role-playing game, a level 1 adventure by David Beatty. I will, of course, be spoiling this adventure. Yes, I am biased because I did write a little bit of stuff in this adventure to help David out. Don't watch this video if you may run the adventure, because I'll be spoiling stuff. Here's the back of it here. This came out when Weird Frontiers was released, and with some other adventures as well, which I'll be talking about in future videos. And yeah, I just want to spotlight some of these great things that you can get alongside with Weird Frontiers. So I love the cover. I remember when David first showed it to me, I was just like, wow, that's fantastic. It's got some great art in it, which of course I'll be showing. And let's take a look. I will have the link down in the description, as well as in the pinned comment if you want to pick this up on Ttrpg, available in PDF and print. So here we go. So first thing that I want to say is, and I kind of mentioned on that, is just the art. I love these big full pages. It's nice to have these adventures in PDF, and it matters, of course, what size tablet or iPad you have. But when you see it here in print, the pic is just so much larger than some of the some iPads and tablets. It just really stands out big and bold, and is a great piece of full page art to show your players. So this is a adventure for 6 to 8 first level characters. I love that it has the synopsis. Pretty much all big adventures or adventures with any type of length need to have a synopsis to it, in my opinion. It tells you everything that's going to happen in the adventure to some degree. And that way, as someone who's running it as a judge, you can decide whether or not this adventure is for you. And also you can kind of go back, if you're having problems understanding what's happening in the adventure, kind of read this, and it's going to give you pretty much the cliff notes of what's happening in this adventure. So you have taken on a job with one Eric Hoffman, who is a U.S. Marshal, tasked with tracking down a band of murderous cultists intent on heading into the desert to a place where they plan to enact a ritual recently discovered that will reveal the location of a dimensional gate leading to the imprisoned dark god Shub-Niggurath they worship. So, a little bit of backstory here. Eric Hoffman is a good friend of ours. He's actually one of the very first people that I played OSR games with. It was Labyrinth Lord. And so sometimes in the adventures, David likes to throw in some of the names of his friends. I have been also in some adventures as well with my names or variants of my names. So that's kind of a little look into that. So you're tracking these cultists down. They have kidnapped people. They're in a valley. You're going to bushwhack them so that you can free the innocents that have been kidnapped for the dark ritual. But unfortunately, Mr. Eric Hoffman will be killed in this fight. And that's unfortunate. So the posse should seek to return the kidnapped people to their village. On the way, they collect the bounty for the wanted cultists, which will be their left hand, which will need to be severed from the cultists. And it says, this simple plan goes awry when the posse arrives to find the town has been served up to Holt Porter and his Juarez jackals, who robbed and murdered the villagers, taking anything of value and a couple of women in the process. Holt and his gang have made a profitable hobby of jumping the Texas-Mexican border and blazing a trail of robberies and violent acts along the way. So, unknown to him, this terrible Holt Porter, he has taken some cursed items that were in the town. And so it says that he's taken something far worse that is driven by an undying thirst for hooch. Unknown to the gang, the village is the home of Pedro Delgado, an aging healer, also known as Commodore del Malecciones. My Spanish is not great. He is the Curse Eater. Pedro has spent the better part of 80 years using his special talent to take cursed items from those wishing to be free of the objects and eating the curses that have fallen upon them. One of these cursed items will prove to be the downfall of Holt and his bandits, an ornate bottle of tequila that just happens to keep a demonic worm in its curse in a larval state of limbo. During the violent attack on Pedro, Holt and his gang take the bottle along with the meager spoils of the village and ride off towards the border to a Texas town called Adobes. Adobes. I'm not exactly sure how it's said, but there it is. The curse is unleashed on the world by Holt and his gang of jackals during the first time they break for camp, to go through their spoils and drink any of the liquor taken up to this point. Each takes a sip from the cursed tequila, with Holt taking the last swill, swallowing the worm, bringing the demon out of limbo and into the bandit's gut. El Gusano Diablo, the devil worm, makes itself known to Holt through a symbiotic attachment, allowing communication by thought. Although the worm will eventually use the carcass of Holt to manifest into the world, it lends its supernatural powers to the man, making him a far deadlier gunfighter. So the PCs will learn of Holt and the curse he has unleashed into the world by the lingering ghost of Pedro, who implores the posse to catch the bandits and take the cursed tequila or destroy the game before El Gusano Diablo can infect the land with the curse of thirst. Conveniently, the posse was headed to the town of Adobus to collect their reward and notify the local sheriff of Hoffman's demise. However, now the chase is on to try and stop Holt and his jackals from reaching the town and raining down destruction by sowing the unsuspected townsfolk with the curse. So you've got kind of the intro when you're involved with Eric Hoffman, U.S. Marshal Hoffman here, as you are chasing them, the first gang, the cultists. And then you've got some random encounters that you can plug in as you're traveling. So it's got one of the ones that I actually made up, La Segua, giant rattlesnakes, freak lightning storms, zombie settlers, a large scorpion, and dire jackalopes. And here's the official start of the adventure. Here's the occultist, Stefan Weber. He's got a mutated brute cultist with him with some standard cultists. Again, great piece of art here. Really like this, all these pieces here by this artist. And I want to say that is, if I can read it correctly, I think his name is Marcin S. is who drew that. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's his name. And he does an outstanding job. So here's them getting ready for that ritual. Maria Gonzalez is the poor girl who you're going to save. Unfortunately, Eric Hoffman gets killed. You can return her to her family. And then you're going to have a couple of encounters here. A Jackalope's Jinx here. As you can see, jackalopes are terrible. It's a big dire one. You've got this Mexican village that you're going to go to, and you can see that the people, there's a bunch of bodies being laid around. Here is the Sin Eater himself, and he's going to give you some information, a little bit in Spanish. You can try to talk to him should you be one of the classes that get to speak to the recently departed. And so he's going to explain in his death throes a little bit and his spirit exactly what's happened. And then here is the random cursed item table. So he has other stuff in his shop or place of that he keeps these cursed items in his home. And it says, if the temptation is too great and the PC wish to touch or take an object, refer to this table. Now, I wrote most of these random cursed items, and they're neat items in which they're to give you some sort of benefit, but then to be obviously have some sort of drawback, a very bad drawback. So we've got a saddle, a wineskin, a derby hat, a cigar box, a fishing rod, a lantern, perfume. So they seem like mundane items, but you know, it says stuff like the lantern appears to have been well used and left out in the elements, made from a tarnished brass. The glass panes have obscure symbols etched or perhaps scratched into them. And then they're going to give you some sort of explanation of what happened with this item and maybe what turned it into such a cursed item. So it was very fun to write these up, to give a little bit of backstory to it. This bottle of perfume here was once owned by the daughter of Chinese nobility. I didn't write all of them, but most of them. So there's some neat things like that. I always like giving items like this, and of course you can find that in the Weird Frontiers book, some sort of history of how it came to be. You've got a shrunken head here. It's some pommel bags, a doctor's bag, duster coat, whip, tobacco pouch, horseshoes, spider skillet, which that one was fun to come up with. And I love stuff, you know, when it comes to your horse, obviously, to give you more connection with your animal that you're going to be riding on probably daily. And so you've got some eyeglasses and a velvet pouch. That one was cool to make. It's neat just to have a couple sentences to give these items some history. So then you've got the chase, and you are chasing Holt on the trail. Now, so when you drink from this bottle, you get the thirst. And there's three different phases, okay? So the first phase is the infection phase, in which you have eggs. and it can be passed along by being bitten. So if you are bitten, there's going to be a save you have to make, and if you fail it, eggs enter your bloodstream. And so you become increasingly thirsty, or the people that get bitten become increasingly thirsty and agitated as the larvae begin to grow and develop the physiology of the host. The thirst is also accompanied by a feeling of worms crawling under the skin, or maybe a tickle in the eye, which might actually be spotted by someone, as the side effects can only be temporarily subdued by drinking alcohol. So the infected becomes more and more obsessed with finding alcohol and will resort to violence to procure it. And then after your infection, what happens is you have to start making some more rolls, and if you fail those, you're going to go into the second phase, which is molting. The molting phase is the larva phase. A clutch of eggs begins to grow into demonic worms, and it sends the host's sense of thirst into overdrive, and infected victims must immediately drink some sort of alcohol, and failure to get those makes them start to suffer stamina damage, which will start to happen to people that have the thirst. But you'll start going a little crazy. You'll get +2 attack and damage, but your armor class will go down as you're pretty much reckless in your rage. And then if you drink alcohol, it's got 2 effects. It provides the fuel needed by the growing worms to begin phase 3 of the curse. And then feeding the worms the sugar needed to evolve also instills a euphoric high in the host, while the brood begins to molt through several growth stages. This high increases the infected's pain tolerance and is reflected by reducing all damage by -1 die until phase 3 has begun, so making them tougher to kill. And then phase 3, you're done now. The infected must continue to make fortitude saves every hour, and passing the save results in the loss of D3 stamina points, but they're still alive for the additional hour. While fighting for their life, the victim gains +4 to attack and damage rolls while suffering -4 to armor class. Failing the save signifies that the nest of worms have begun devouring one another, burrowing and chasing its kin throughout the victim's body until the strongest, most cunning remains. Kind of creepy thing to think about. The survivor immediately travels to the brain and assumes control of the victim, now considered a grub, forever lost as a PC. If this happens to you, your character is dead. Curing an infected victim at this stage is nearly impossible, and it requires some really strong healing to do that. So there's going to be people throughout the rest of this adventure, or we're going to be in the different stages, and different phases, I should say, of the thirst. So here's an encounter with a Hellbloom, a plant creature that has got this scent that lures you into it. The hands of the cultists that you may have cut off, they bust out of the bag and try to strangle and kill you. And then here is the town. And so you're going to have this section here that's going to lead towards the end. It's going to explain to you how you can get into Adobus, the town that the Holt and his boys are in, and they have infected tons of the townsfolk. So infected townsfolk, they're in the larva state, and so they're going to be all around the outside. Almost think of this as kind of like a zombie type situation, but there's going to be a lot of interesting ways to sneak into the town, maybe get into the town, get into the chapel, hunt down Holt. You can storm straight into the street, but you're going to have a lot of these infected townsfolk to try to attack you. Here's a great map here of Adobus in the Rio Grande Canyon. And again, like I said, infected banditos in the grub stage. Here's Holt Porter. They're going to be in the Thirsty Cactus, drinking it up in this gambling parlor, which you can see here. Again, fantastic art that just really goes well together. I love it. It's just really, really good. Anything that this artist does, I enjoy. And so here's the stats for El Gusano, the demon worm, who of course is very nasty as it can bust through stuff. It's got a big lamprey maw. It can actually swallow and engulf its victims, and it can strangle you with its tentacles. There is a church, and you'll have various people either holed up that have not been infected, or people that have been infected in each of the different buildings in the town. Church of Our Savior. There is a dentistry, which is really neat here. This piece of art is crazy, as this dentist has taken on. He's got the thirst. She's got the worms in her mouth. He's pulling out her teeth, and the worms kind of pour out from the opening in her gums. It's really kind of brutal scene whenever you go into there. So it's a little bit like, kind of a zombie type situation where you don't know who's going to be a survivor, and as you go into places, people might be looking for help, so you can help them. And there's a great thing here where these horses have actually been taken over by the thirst. You can see they're stomping this guy to his head into bits as this other horse is drinking booze. Trigger and Bartholomew, the infected horses, they will also try to kill you. Then you've got this post office, which is actually being held up by bank robbers, and they don't know what's going on, these two bank robbers, and so they are acting as if they work at the post office to try to get one over on the PCs, maybe try to backstab them, attack them once they're free, because they don't know exactly what's going on, but they have committed some terrible crimes and are looking to get out. And so here's a cool piece of art with this kid with this terrible creatured head here. And so you've got stuff like the deputies being infected. You've got the clothers here. They're infected at different larva states. And then some other places that don't have any infected in there, but there's some neat things to go search for and maybe get some guns and some additional loot. Here's the Kitty Cat Ranch. It's got, it's the rundown brothel, and it's got some dancing girls. They're also in the larva state. So in the appendix, we've got the stats for the crawling claws of the cultists that are going to attack you. Obviously, the demon worm, El Gusano. And here it is here as it busts out and attacks everyone. This luchador is trying to get away, probably will not. Of course, host of El Gusano, Holt Porter, the Hellbloom, and then the various stages of the infected in the adventure. So there it is. Never Swallow the Worm. It's a great kind of introductory, first level introductory adventure. This would probably be one of the first ones I'd play after the funnel, is to play Never Swallow the Worm. I know it was one of the very kind of original adventures for Weird Frontiers, but of course, David and all his artists, and I do of course have to say, I think I did a great job on the cursed items, which were, again, really fun to make. It's always fun to come up with some sort of backstory for an item, and then have something to be good, something that gives you some sort of boost, but then is also cursed, and it has some sort of penalty to use. So there it is, Never Swallow the Worm. I hope you liked this video. Thanks to everyone recently that subscribed to the channel. It's only gotten bigger, and I appreciate that. Look out for more adventures from Weird Frontiers in future videos, and I've got some other stuff to show you until then. And those will be, like I said, those will be probably down the road a little bit. I want to space these out a little bit. And they're going to be written by different writers. Some of them you may know from Dungeon Crawl Classics, as they've written a bunch of them. And they also gave their great talents to Weird Frontiers with their adventures. So there it is. Never Swallow the Worm. Thank you.